Call this meeting to order as it's 5:30.
Agreed.
Roll call. Council at Large Sphere.
Here.
Ward number 1 Leeper.
Here.
Ward number 2 Anderson.
Here.
And Ward number 3 McNeil.
Here.
Alright.
Oh, I'm stuck.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are no changes to the agenda. As for a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
McNeil was first and Spear was second.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes. Alright, so now the communications. This is the part where the city can address the council. So if anybody would like to address the council, you can make your way to the podium. Seeing that there are none, we'll close that portion of the meeting and move on to the consent agenda, and these can be enacted with one motion. It's the city council minutes from May 6th, the city special meeting council minutes from May 7th, development director's report from May of 19, airport minutes from May of 19, treasurer's and investment report from April of 19, and the claims list. Is there anything that needed to be pulled out? Seeing there is none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Spear with first, and McNeil with the second.
Spear?
Yes.
Leaper?
Yes.
McNeil? Anderson?
Yes.
Alright, so now, moving on to the first thing then, which is that public hearing. It's for the fiscal year 18-19 budget ending June 30th of 2019. Is there a motion to open the public hearing? Motion. McNeil with first,
Second.
and Spear with the second.
Leaper?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Alright, Melissa?
I have not been notified of any concerns or questions from anyone at City Hall.
Alright. Do any of you have any questions for Melissa or anything? Alright. If there are no, Brian, did you have anything? Okay. Is there a motion then to close the public hearing?
So move.
Anderson with the first,
Second.
and Leeper with the second?
McNeil?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Leaper?
Yes.
Alright, moving on to old business, which is the third reading of an ordinance that amends chapter 106, which is the collection of solid waste. Do the third reading. Brian?
I really don't have any new comments from what we talked about at the first and second reading, so I guess I just leave it open if there are any questions about it.
Well, I would like to add that Republic, who takes our commingled recycling in Cedar Rapids, they've gone from $85 a ton to $103 a ton. Our April bill was $1,543 for a recycle that we delivered up there versus somewhere around 1,000 to 1,100 in the past, which has gone up significant just since we started this process.
Alright. Thank you, Steve. If there's no other questions or comments, is there a motion to pass this final reading?
So move.
Lieber with the first, and Anderson with the second.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Leaper?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes. Moving on to the number 2, which is discussion of possible action concerning the approval of the amendment number 1 regarding the aquatic center repairs. Adam, Brian?
This is for bills that we've already incurred. It has to do with the roof design, new doors and wall details, along with meetings and coordination with the architect. You know, there were some things that we changed along the way, and we did a little bit of freelancing on the different alternates that were considered. I think that's all related to some of the changes that we were looking at. Do you have anything to add?
No, I'm just ready to get started, so, to be honest with you, so, but it's been very nice to work with them.
Alright. there any questions for Brian or Adam? I'm gonna ask for a motion regarding this.
Our motion is to go ahead and approve.
Yes.
So moved.
Spear with the first and McNeil with the second.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
All right, number 3, which is just an update on the Liza generating station and the city's RFP. Brian?
Yeah, as you'll remember, we talked about collecting proposals or soliciting proposals for other members of Liza to see if they were interested in buying the city's share. And the reason for limiting it to the various other owners, which were at least 10 to 12, was because the agreement that sets up the Liza situation makes changes of ownership among the members a lot easier than if it was to a new player. But when the May 10th due date came, we did not have any offers. There was one serious contender that I'm told of. And the offer they made was not viable. It would have included something such as acquiring our municipal utility or acquiring our generating capacity, which we have no idea, no plan whatsoever of doing. The other comment that I heard was there were maybe 2 or 3 possible companies who mentioned concerns about criticism when it comes to being a coal-fired plant. They had mentioned to our agent, in this case, Robert Latham, that they've had different situations with environmental groups before about trying to be more green, and so I was a little bit surprised by how significantly concerned they seemed to be from the way it was described to me. And you know, the fact that we weren't creating any new coal-fired generation, it would have just been a change in ownership of the same amount. But it appears that made some inroads. So, again, the due date came and passed, and we didn't receive any valid offers, so we're back where we were.
All right. So, and that is all that is needed, just an update.
Yes.
All right, let me get back to the agenda. All right, so now we'll move on down to new business, and the first one is a resolution amending the current budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th. Melissa?
Just as a reminder of what it's amending, we did some amendments for the repairs on the police vehicle. We received the insurance settlement last fiscal year, so we did adjustments to cover those expenses. There was some crack sealing and asphalt repairs that we covered, connecting our economic development office to City Hall's servers and internet, WatchGuard, DRIP expenses. We also are covering some transfers from the cash balance to cover the purchase of the gas vehicle, as well as a debt service payment for our 2018 street projects for the interest.
All right. If there are no questions for Melissa, I'd ask for a motion.
So moved.
Spear with the first and Leeper with the second.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil, Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
All right, so number 2, discussion and action concerning the options for the stormwater project, as we discussed during the work session.
Right. We were talking about doing point repairs in-house and with the use of contractors when appropriate. And I think at this point we're looking for a motion along the lines of authorizing the type of work as described, those repairs, and authorizing the collection of quotes on different locations, such as different manholes. So in the case of those contractors, I suppose you could look for a list of each quote and have us bring it back, or knowing that we have between two budgets, $69,000 to use, you could authorize staff to use up to that amount as long as it is within keeping with this work and the types of projects that were described. So you can go either way.
I would make a motion to, go ahead and do what we can in-house and, obtain the quotes for up to $69,000.
All right, so there's the first, and there's the second from Leeper.
McNeil,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make sure, one last thing, this is like required prep work for all the lining. Right,
Not all the lining,
well,
but the lining within the shaded area.
yes,
In the area of Third Street.
so without any of this, we wouldn't be able to line.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, in one way of looking at it, it's sort of like connecting the dots, but you have to fix all the dots first.
Yeah.
And then you can do the line between those different points.
all right, so to number 3, discussion and possible action concerning an estoppel certificate attendance site agreement with Kirkwood Community College. Mr. Wagner?
Yes, what this is about is the Kirkwood radio tower that is on the park property next to or nearby the co-op property. Kirkwood is selling its towers. The company in this certificate, SWIF Iowa LLC, is purchasing the Tipton tower in our case. The agreement stays the same. It still runs until June 30 of 2029. The city's share of the revenue taken from those who rent space on the tower is the same. It's 50%. And as I understand it, it's one of the more lucrative arrangements. And they didn't ask to change that. I was kind of worried that they would. But in the original lease agreement in number 7, it says that they can't transfer ownership without our written consent. So that's what this is about. I don't see any issues as to why you would not allow this assignment, especially since there have been no changes that they've asked for.
All right, there are no questions for Brian. Is there a motion? Leeper with the first and McNeil with the second?
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil.
Yes. All right, number 4.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt.
You're fine.
If I'm not mistaken, I think on item 2, we had a motion and a second, but I don't think we took the vote.
Okay.
We did vote on old business number 2?
You mean new business number 2?
I'm
Old
sorry, yeah, new
business.
business number 2.
Old?
Yeah.
We have new. Yeah, we have Spear and Leeper with first and second, and then
Anderson, Spear, Leeper.
we can do it again. Though.
My bad, sorry, if it's passed, it's passed. So,
We can vote again.
Yeah. Do we want to just to make sure? Well, we got to take it too.
You seconded before I said it. I wrote it down, but I didn't.
You did? Okay. Alright, we just did that one, so now we're on to number 4, which is discussion and possible action concerning a request to barricade 5th from Cedar to Meridian for Drive One for your community Thursday fundraiser on Thursday, July 25th.
Yeah, I have Linda's items tonight. The only thing that I have to add is it's a fundraiser on behalf of the Hardacre Theater.
All right. So if there's no questions for Brian, is there a motion? Leaper with the first,
Second?
and Spear with the second.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil, Anderson,
Yes.
All right, number 5, discussion of possible action concerning art downtown and at the park by Christine Booby. Brian?
Yeah, Linda gave some examples of the type of painting that's been done elsewhere. And the proposal is to do more of the type of painting that you've seen on some of the objects downtown. It'd be an expansion of that at both the park and more in the downtown. The cost of painting this year's designed areas will be $500 plus $100 for paint. So I think the painting, the comments toward the painting that I've seen for what's already been done have been positive, so hopefully that would be an expansion of that.
I think it looks great, but if is there a motion?
I'll move
Anderson with the first, and Leaper with the second.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil, Anderson,
it. Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
All right, number 6, discussion of possible discussion of possible action concerning the TRIP program request for Michael Thomas with Thomas Heating and Air. Right?
This item and the two items that follow it are all applications to the new TRIP program, which is the new companion program to the DRIP downtown program. It provides grants of up to $7,500 for different kinds of improvements, if matched by at least a like amount. And in these 3 cases, it was the consensus of the Development Commission to recommend all 3. Now, you're going to be asked to motion on each of them individually. The write-ups for each have the particulars. We can go into any one of them in more detail if you want to, but that's pretty much it for these 3 items.
All right, so concerning number 6 for Thomas Heating and Air, there is no discussion. Is there a motion?
Motion.
McNeil with the first,
Second.
and Spear with the second.
McNeil,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
All right, so the next one, which is the trip for Sean Malone, which is Garuda Farms Herbs and Vegetables, which will be located in the Tipton Business Park subdivision. Same thing kind of goes for this one, so if nobody has any questions for Brian. Is there a motion? Anderson with the first, and McNeil with the second.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Number 8, this is another trip program request from Mike Cook Storage, located on West South Street. If there are no questions for Brian or comments, I would ask for a motion.
So moved.
Spear with the first and Leaper with the second.
Spear, Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil, Anderson,
Yes.
Just as a footnote, the first ones were for this full $7,500.
Sorry.
That's okay. This particular one is for $3,015.43.
And then those are all, you guys have to go back and verify before that gets paid out.
Right,
Yeah.
and in November, when we have you consider a resolution to certify for TIF reimbursement, these will come back as items to reimburse the city for, from the, this would be the larger TIF district, not the downtown one.
All right. Then moving on to number 9, discussion of possible action concerning a copy machine request from the Aquatic Center.
Hey, everybody.
Okay.
As you see in the write-up, we graciously got the copy machine that used to be at City Hall. Like I said, the past 14 years since I've been here, any type of program, 20 copies, 10 copies, anything, I had to come to City Hall and make copies. So, and then we were approached by Access Systems. They came to the Quags here and spoke with Melissa, Mandy, myself, and came with 2 lease options. And then this includes all toner, maintenance, everything. And Mandy and I also talked about possibly spacing out, because this time of year we use the copy machine. I mean, I think City Hall is tired of us coming down all the time and making copies, but.
That was your smiling face.
Oh, thanks. So, but we space it out, so basically we have a requirement of how many copies we have per month. So, like during the winter time, I already know our dates pretty set for all the rec programs, and we'll make copies prior to that and make sure that we're not over. Granted, and then she says, per image is 0.01 to 0.065 per copy if you go over the allotted range. But I think this is I was shocked that it was including toner and everything else, so.
Alright. Any questions for Adam?
Well, yeah, and are you limited to how many copies?
It's 1,000 per month for black and white and 300 for color per month.
So if you don't use your quota 1 month, you can over.
They said we can adjust that accordingly. I mean, it's sort of like I forget, they basically said just trial it and see how it goes, and like see how much we have to play with it. We do by quarter, by month, and see how because usually during the summertime and spring we use a lot of copies, but then in the fall and winter time we don't use as many. So
Right, well, I visited with Melissa and.
Oh, you did, okay.
Well, and he also said that for us, the better scenario would be for us to have it evaluated annually, because obviously you have very busy seasons, but then in the winter months, it's not, so then it would average out to balance to this, instead of doing it monthly, where we're gonna go over
Right,
some months
months.
and then hardly use it the others, so.
Yeah.
So after a year, you can have 12,000 copies.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Because I mean, even during for flag football, soccer, and volleyball and other sports, we promote to North Cedar schools too. So and then they come to our programs. So we promote to all their schools as well, and Bennett, of course.
It seems like a high monthly bill, but having everything included is
Yeah,
probably not.
that's why when he said that first thing, but that's including all maintenance coming back if we need them to come, phone calls, toner, everything. That's included.
Alright. Is there a motion to approve or deny or table?
Motion to approve.
Spear with the first to approve this. And McNeil with the second.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil, Anderson,
Yes.
Spear.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Alright, so the next one, which is, discussion on possible action concerning an MCI trailer, which is a mass casualty incident, trailer from the, for purchase for the ambulance department.
Right. I'm gonna let Melissa add on to whatever if there's a need to, but just looking at Brad's synopsis, he mentions that last year the ambulance service received a grant for approximately $10,000 for the purchase of supplies and equipment for a mass casualty response unit. This would be a trailer that those supplies would be contained in. The grant doesn't pay for the trailer. The trailer would cost $4,500, but you determined that was budget.
Yep, in the budget amendment, he moved money from his training line to this line to pay for it.
So he's asking for accident on this.
Alright. Any questions for Brian and Melissa?
So when we approved, when he got the grant, did we understand that a trailer was going to have to be part of that transaction? Or this is just,
I can't recall exactly.
yeah, I mean, you can't store those supplies in the ambulance building?
I think the idea is you can take it to the event,
Okay.
you know, the mass casualty event.
Oh, I was kinda wondering if they were gonna load people on there and haul them to the hospital.
Nope.
No. Well, we hope not.
Just thought.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion? McNeil with the first to approve,
Second.
Anderson with the second.
McNeil? Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
Alright, number 11, discussion and possible action concerning a tree removal in Power Line Road.
Hello.
Hi.
This would be for tree removal in the power line right away, up by the county farm. If you look on this, I realize it's not a real good, picture of it, but if you see up there in the upper right-hand corner is Myron Holden's farm house on Highway 38. This line, basically, all it does is it feeds his property. That's all it does. But it does come back to out in front of the old county home, and then it splits off and it goes to three-phase back that way. The problem with this line is that the trees start whipping around in there and smacking around on that power line and stuff like that. It'll cause outages and stuff like that, and that's something we kind of want to stay away from. So, and I went and talked to the board of supervisors, and they seemed pretty receptive about working together with us and having them use their equipment to clear that out. Like it said in my write-up, there's 3 to 4 feet tall of rotten timbers and everything that's been pushed up there before. And I'm afraid somebody's gonna be up there with a chainsaw, and they're gonna fall, and they're gonna get hurt. So, in talking with the county, we don't have a specific timeline that we're looking at. I told them, I said, we got 3 to 6 months to worry about this. So, and that gives me time to work with them and come up with a solution that we think is equitable for everybody. It benefits both of us. It benefits the county and it benefits the city, the electric department, that is. But it benefits the city in the whole.
So then, with this motion, what are you looking for them to make a motion to pursue a cost-sharing agreement only?
Whatever one you tell me to do.
Or, okay.
Well, you would do, it's like joint labor.
Yes, we would be there to help cut up stuff that can't be pushed or something like that. Or, you know, if it gets in the machine, but I don't foresee that happening. But it would be, we would be out there working with them as well.
So it's to authorize this joint project.
More or less. I mean,
Alright.
how would you like to do it? I mean, share the cost with them? I mean, I'm sure we can come to something equitable.
Is there a cost beyond the labor and the equipment that'll be used that's already owned by somebody?
I'd imagine they're gonna have more money in this than us. When you take, the fact they're gonna have a D6 Caterpillar out there, I think isn't that their big one?
No.
I think it is, but I don't know what they get out of those for an hour commercially, but I can't imagine it's very cheap. I would figure $150 an hour for a D6 Caterpillar. So, I mean, just guessing.
But on the city's part, we just have labor.
The city part, we just have labor.
Okay.
Alright.
But like I say, it benefits both.
Is there a motion to approve this joint project? Seaver with the first,
Second.
and Spear with the second.
Before you take the vote, what direction, do you want me to just cost share it or just share the labor?
I thought it was just sharing
Share the labor.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
If it gets on beyond that, you and I can sort it out and maybe come back.
Okay.
The vote?
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Alright, the next one is approval to have RPM Revival refurbish the traffic signal poles.
Okay, what you have here is some pictures of the traffic signal poles. The salt is really getting to them. This pole that I did take the pictures of is the one that is on the southeast corner of 5th and Cedar. So it'd be the one where, would be on the county corner there. What?
Courthouse corner.
Yeah. Got me confused there for a minute. I thought maybe I said it wrong. But as you can see, the salt's really starting to deteriorate. 3 of the 4 poles are all doing this. The one pole that is not is the one there on the corner by, I believe it was Stumbo's Gallery. Other than that, the other 3 are doing the same thing. I talked to Randy Amison, or is it Amosom? I don't know which is the correct, but at any rate, I talked to him about it. Took him up there and looked, and we decided that we needed to go about 12 foot up on each of the poles, on those 3. It would be cheaper if I could take them down, but since the traffic signals and everything are on, and we can't, and we don't have any spare poles to do that, that's why the price is what it is. Which I believe is about $4,900.
It's $4,986.94.
$5,000, yeah. So, at any rate, that's kind of where we're at on that. And we kind of probably ought to start thinking about doing something with them. So it's kind of up to you what you want to do. If you've got a different alternative, this is about the only thing I could come up with. Was having him go up there and blast them and paint them, and he'll have to do it in right there at the intersection. So I told him, I said, well, you'll have to have vests, work signs, and hard hats. So they'll have to follow all the DOT rules on that. So.
Alright. There are no questions for Brian or Floyd. Is there a motion?
Brian and Melissa and I, we talked about this briefly, but we didn't decide what year we were gonna fund this in. I think we were gonna wait until next year, right? Yeah, that's right. We had some money in streetlight conversions that we could roll over into this.
Alright.
So that would be the answer to that, so. I know we talked about both, so.
Alright, is there a motion?
So moved.
Spear with the first and Leeper with the second.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Alright, and discussion of possible action concerning the purchase of wire for the Cedar County Co-op project.
Okay, I'm gonna try to just do this one real quick, but as you can see, I got 4 people to bid, and the lowest price was from the Terry Duran Company for $2 and basically 9 cents per foot. We'd be buying 7,500 feet. It'd be 5 days after we received the order. What I'm gonna try to get them to do is I would like to hold off on the purchase until we actually need it to work out there, which would be closer to July. And so that we could be billed into the next year's budget, because I really didn't budget for this. And if they don't, I'll see what kind of a price we can get to go ahead and order 3 reels. But I'm gonna see if they're gonna take the 3 reels that they have now, if they'll hold on to them until we're ready for them, for that project. That way I can have it billed in the 2019-2020 budget.
that the wire that's needed for the new transformer that they're getting?
Mhm.
All right.
But this is like a pass-through, right? I mean, we paid for this.
This will not be, because the deal that I made with the co-op was they have to give me an easement to make a loop back up to the north, back up there to the cruise edition, you know, where we fed the co-op from the back and the back there. This is coming from the front, and my plan is to tie the system together back up there so that if something happens at the high school, I can feed it from that direction, or if something happens in the cruise edition, that the feed for the co-op quits, I can feed back that way and pick everything up to the cruise edition to wherever that is bad at. So it gives me a dual purpose for that. So I told them I would not charge them for the wire that would run to this. So, because it's a benefit for our system, and I felt that the benefit far outweighed what I would get from them. And it was a little bit easier for them to swallow that. When they found out they had to pay for the transformer and things like that. And I'm willing to look at things like this, because it does add value to our system and makes it more robust, more redundant, which I think is quite important with us not still being completely underground yet. So.
All right.
Who's gonna drop the easement? You know,
Well, we discussed that, who I should talk to at the attorney's office, and we haven't got much farther.
okay,
Remember, we talked about that, you told me not to,
all right, yeah,
so.
we need a surveyor too. Yeah, okay,
Well, they've had it surveyed.
we need to survey the easement area, unless they did that.
Well, typically, we just find the lot pins and just go from there, and just get 10 or 15 feet. That's all I've done in the past,
So it's along the lot lines?
yes. Because it would be, it borders the city park property, so, and I was gonna,
Well, if it's straightforward, then it's probably okay. It's just that I've seen some easements that the city here has done in the past, and it's only a meets and bounds description. So you look at it, unless you can read a legal description, you don't know where it is on the ground. That's why a surveyor's exhibit is helpful, but if it's right along the lot line, then maybe
yeah,
it's...
typically what I try to do, Brian, is I like to split the properties 5 feet on each side or 7.5 feet on each side, which in the case of the city, I wouldn't have to do that. That way it gives us the variance. If somebody comes in and says the survey's off by X amount, I mean,
Okay.
so that's typically what I try to do. But if you want me to do the surveyor thing, I can do that too.
Let's,
Discuss it.
yeah, let's just look at it.
Okay.
Maybe it's straightforward enough.
Okay.
All right. Is there a motion for the purchase of the wire?
So,
Lieber with the first,
second.
and Anderson with the second.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil, Anderson,
Yes.
Spear.
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Floyd. Number 14, discussion and possible action concerning a garbage exemption at 620 West 6th Street. This one meets all the criteria. All right, is there a motion, Chris?
Move.
Anderson with the first,
Second?
and Lieber with the second.
McNeil,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper.
Yes.
All right, so now we move to a portion of it where I need a motion to go into closed session.
Motion.
McNeil with first.
Second.
Sorry, what?
Just one question.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any difference to me, but is there any reason why you flip-flop 16 and 17? Or could you do the one before the, I'm just asking one before the other.
Want to do 17 first?
The reason why, I mean the selection.
Yeah.
The reason why I've done that, I used to see it done where it was, the first item. And then if the person is appointed, they could be sworn in and participate in the meeting where they were selected. And when you've got more than one choice, they come into the meeting cold. They don't have a packet that they've studied. So I've typically put it at the end so that their first meeting is the next meeting.
Stop that.
Good question.
All right, so, but now for number 15, we'll be moving into closed session. And McNeil's made the motion to go into closed session.
Second?
Lieber with the second.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper, McNeil.
All right.
Now, if everybody, you can leave if you want, but we're gonna come back into open session, so if you wanna stick around, you can come back in at that time.
All right, so we're back into open session at 6:28. And number 16, discussion possible action concerning whether to take action as a result of the closed session. Take a motion, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Motion to approve what was discussed.
Yes, motion to approve what was discussed in the closed session.
Motion.
Second.
McNeil with the first and Spear with the second.
Leeper,
Yes.
McNeil, Anderson.
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
All right, so now down to number 17, which is a resolution appointing blank to fill the vacancy at large created by the resignation of council member Leanne Boots.
And again, this type of appointment then would be until the November election. If there's not a petition filed for a special election, and then the person who's appointed then would make a decision as to whether or not to run in November. So if you don't have to decide tonight. You do have time. You have 60 days after the effective date of her resignation, so I think that takes you through the second meeting in June if you're not ready. But basically, this is your first opportunity to appoint someone. We have enclosed in your packet the different letters and emails of interest that we received from 6 different individuals. And now it's up to you to see where you're at.
So is there,
So they're not, when we appoint tonight, that isn't to fulfill the term, it's just,
till the first general election?
wow. So we're gonna have a lot on the ballot.
So that's gonna change the time that Leanne would have had she not resigned.
No, because it's for the balance of her term. I'll give you an example. If you called for a special election,
Mhm.
and I think it would be held in July, if I remember the timeline right, the special election would be for the balance of her term. If you do an appointment and the appointment stands, the appointment is till the election, and then the election in November is for the balance of her term.
Wow.
Okay.
So if this person if you do appoint someone, if they choose to just serve between now and November and decide that's all I want to do, they can do that.
Well, I read the letters, and I've reached a point that I feel that I would like to nominate Abby Cummins Van Scoy to fill this position.
All right.
Second that.
So Lieber with the first to appoint Abby Cummins Van Scoy, and McNeil with the second.
McNeil.
Well, hold on, sorry. Yeah, was there any other discussion, I guess? All right, then,
McNeil,
yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Spear,
Yes.
Leeper,
Yes.
All right, so Abby Cummins Van Scoy was appointed to fill the vacancy. And now that takes us down to the reports. Mayor's report, I have nothing other than, I guess, welcome Ms. Manskoy for your appointment. To council reports, nope. Committees, city manager, department heads.
Real quick. Last week I attended a meeting with ITC Midwest and RPGI. I want you to know that we're probably possibly looking at transmission rate hike. So it's going to get more expensive to get power here. They were dancing around the question that I asked, but what it boiled down to was they found a new way to raise rates. And what they're doing is, basically what it was said was, this is a rate enhancement matrix. So now the new buzzword for rate increases is we'll call it a rate enhancement. So, but at any rate, I'm looking at it to probably go up 3 to 5%. So,
All right.
right now we're sitting okay, but we'll have to kind of monitor to see what ITC Midwest does do. So I am looking for a rate increase. So we should be prepared for that.
All right, thank you, Floyd.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Floyd.
All right, so now we are down to adjournment. There's a motion to adjourn. Anderson with first and Spear with second.
Anderson?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil?
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.